Hey, what's up, everybody? I'm Scott.
I'm Shatay, and we're the Hazes.
Welcome to the Love Haze podcast, where we believe that healing and wholeness are not destinations.
That's right. We believe they're a journey. And here on the Love Haze, we talk about how to navigate through it.
We're so excited to be starting off the new year with our 50th episode.
Turn up.
Right. The new year is typically time for resolutions and restarts.
Mm-hmm.
And in true Love Haze fashion, we're going to challenge that a little bit and also normalize something that we don't talk about a whole lot, which is just picking up where you left off.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to take this episode and talk a little bit more about how we do that. So welcome back to our Black Love journey. Let's get right into it.
Let's go.
Let go.
Hey, 2023. So top of the year and first episode of the year, 50th episode.
Yeah.
We started in 2020. It's our pandemic baby, and she's still going strong.
Yes.
And at the top of the year, folks are almost always talking about New Year resolutions, New Year, New You, what they're doing differently, what they're going to start, and then probably not continue by March. And, you know, one of our last episodes of 2022 was just about celebrating the progress that we've made over, the past year. And like, why do we have to restart if we are making good progress in life, in our healing, in our wholeness, and all of those things? And we were already talking about this idea, and then Alex L., who we follow on IG, I think her handle is @Alex, and she talks a lot about healing and wholeness and has books out, which are really great. So follow her if you don't already. But she was on Good Morning America, and she had this interview, and the host was essentially asking her, like, it's about to be a new year, what do you say to that? And she was like, I don't believe in starting over at the new year, actually. And she posted this on IG. She said, in response to that, she said, number one, baby steps are still valuable steps. Number two, we don't have to reinvent ourselves every year. Amen to that.
Mm-hmm.
Number three, honoring where we are is important as we continue to change, heal, and grow. And that's really the entire vibe of, I think, where we are in life, where we are with the Love Haze, and I can say specifically where I am personally. So I'd love to start us off by talking about this idea of progress and Mr. Mental Health Professional. So like, what, right, what do you typically, I don't want to say teach your clients, what do you guide them towards in terms of progress? Because I imagine that every new year, you're not going around to your vets saying, it's a new year, new you, right? Like, what are you talking to them about in terms of sustaining the progress that they've already made, or just like continuing forward?
I think I have a general practice of, coming from a standpoint of course, progress over perfection.
Yeah.
And one of the main things that I teach my veterans, or that I try to present them with as an option, is the idea of being a one percenter. And so a one percenter is just a person who is able to recognize that. So the length of my program is 90 days. So if a person comes into our program and they make up their mind that they want to be 1% better every day, then they have a chance to be 90% better by the end of the program.
Nice.
But the thing about 1% is, like, a lot of times 1% is not noticeable.
Yeah.
And what I always tell them is that 1% is not sexy. Right? 1% doesn't really look like a whole bunch. But if I give myself permission to take things in small increments, like if I do this 1% better, over the course of time, I'll notice a bigger change, right? And so a lot of times when we start to want to change things, we like make drastic changes, and we want to see big results. And a lot of people end up quitting resolutions by January, February, or March because they don't see this massive change.
Yeah.
But having this principle of 1%, where I can allow myself to be 1% better tomorrow than I am today, it's small, incremental changes. It doesn't really look like a whole lot, but we're doing the work. So if we can slow ourselves down a little bit and give ourselves permission to be one percenters, I won't come in here and say, oh my God, my attitude is 1% better than it was yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm able to notice a small change that I've made, and I can see the 1% add up to 30%, add up to 60%,
Yeah.
add up to 90%. So I really try to get my veterans to agree to be folks who are just one percenters who can say that I'm doing my best to be 1% better than I was. But also, a caveat of that is if I get to my 11th day and I go off on somebody, or I have a slip of the tongue, or I cuss somebody out, it doesn't negate the other days that
Mm-hmm.
I got 1% better.
Mm-hmm.
So that may mean I got to day 10 and I'm 10% better. And maybe I don't get the percent for that one day.
Mm.
It doesn't knock everything else out. It just means that I'm at 10 and I get to start on day 12 to get another 1% better. I still
Yeah.
get to count all of my progress and not ball it up and throw it away.
Yeah, I really like that. And it sounds like it's just you're having to create new habits, and creating new habits takes time. It's not like, I'm this one way today and then tomorrow I'm going to automatically be different. It is about making choices towards who you want to be. And that's how you sustain the forward movement. What are your personal thoughts on New Year's resolutions?
I think that New Year's resolutions I found that they aren't for me.
Mm-hmm.
I always tell people that I am resolute. And being resolute just means that I am determined to be better. So I don't do resolutions. I am resolute with my life and with how I choose to live and with the way that I approach this thing.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree. I think what I personally prefer is to have an intention, like a word for a year. And like in the past I have done where, okay, my resolutions for this year are whatever, and I don't ever recall sticking with them. What we do in our family, my mom asks us for the things that we're believing for each year, and then she prays over those things. So I wouldn't call them resolutions. They kind of are like goals. They're kind of like, intentions and goals together. Like, this is what I'm hoping will have happened by the end of this year. And we kind of hold those. But the idea of like, ooh, so, it's a new year. I'm gonna be this new person is not, it's not the vibe.
So then what are your intentions for the new year, and how do those align with like this idea of progress?
For me, my intentions are, I was rocking with the word growth for like the past few weeks. Like, ooh, growth is one of my intentions. I've since reflected more on that, and it's not really growth for growth's sake. It feels like expansion is a word. So some years ago, my word was like roots, to get rooted where I am. And I did that in a lot of different ways. And so when I think of growth, I'm thinking about the roots expanding, right?
Yeah.
So just expansion is a word. But for me, the real word, I think, that will drive that expansion and the growth, the real intention for me is self-trust. And I know I talked about this, and I think when we were talking to Westbrook about just kind of mental health, and I even mentioned, I think in another episode, like 48 or 49, about self-trust. That's what I'm going with this year. Like, how can I trust myself even more? If I trust myself, what does it look like to trust myself in every area when it comes to my health, my physical health, my mental health, my career, our podcast? Like, what does it look like for me to trust myself? And I think that will drive the growth that I'm talking about, if I can trust myself in new, richer ways. So that's what I'm rocking with until further notice.
Until further notice.
What about you?
For me, I don't have a word. Mine is more of a phrase, and it is unconditional self-acceptance.
What does that mean for you?
It means that I am, on December 31st, I was enough. On January 1st, I was enough.
Yeah.
On today, on January 2nd, I am enough. And I am making a choice to try to be better for myself as the days go on. Not because the year ended.
Yeah.
But every day I want to be able to look at myself in the mirror and accept myself just as I am, with the missteps of the day with the things with the choices that I made that were in alignment with the goals that I set for myself, and even with the choices that I made that were not in alignment. Like, no matter what, I lived, I did the best that I could, and I unconditionally accept myself, and I unconditionally love myself. I don't love myself any less because I didn't make all of the right choices.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, that is progress. When I look back over the therapy work that I had to do in the last year, my own year in review, so much of that was about like coming to intersections of places where I had my ideal self and I had who I actually showed up as.
Mm-hmm.
And many of those conversations were about like, I started to feel like I wasn't enough because I didn't. The ideal self didn't match up with how I actually presented. And so this year, I just really want to just be
Who you are.
accepting of who I am.
Yeah.
And know that I'm enough. And I don't want to have, I think there's more growth for me to do in therapy around, like, of course, being better, but loving Scott just as I am. I want to keep having these conversations about me coming up short of like this ideal person that is not a real person.
Yeah.
You know, I want to be able to celebrate myself for actually being out here doing the work, living life.
Trying.
My
grandmother says nothing beats a failure but a try.
Right,
she
absolutely.
Always says that. Yeah. I don't fully understand the wording of it, but I get the gist. Do you know what I mean? So then what's the haze of that? What's the haze of focusing on the 1%? What's the haze of sticking with the intention of radical self-acceptance? That's the word you used? Or did I change up your words?
You changed it up a little bit, but we talk about how you do this, how you get like a couple words.
Radical,
so I said unconditional self-acceptance. But I think radical is good too, because it's going to be something that's radical. Getting into the haze of it is just that. There are these 45 years of life that I have lived in which I have developed this way of thinking that says that I messed this thing up, so I'm gonna thug it out to the end of the year, and then on January 1st, I'm gonna start with getting it right, right? And I am eliminating the idea of right and wrong, of good and evil as it relates to myself.
Yeah.
Right. I am here. I am trying. That is enough. Right. I want to be able to just live in a way that is satisfactory for who I believe that I am as a person. Knowing that I am good, knowing that I am enough. And the haze of that is there is this perfectionist in me that shows up and wants me to have the right amount of numbers on this Apple Watch to say that I worked out enough, right? I reached my 1,000-calorie workout goal. I closed all my rings. I did all this. I checked off every box.
Transactional.
Right. And we talked a whole bunch last year, especially when we even talk about our favorite episodes. About one of the most dynamic points for me was like, I want things to stop being transactional.
Yeah.
I want to show up. I want to move my body.
Yeah.
Right. I want to move. I want to feel good about having moved my body, about what I put into my body, those things. Not that I ate 5 salads this week.
Yeah.
Right. Not always putting a number or a check mark behind something. And that's a haze for me because I've lived my life so much, even with the diet culture and stuff that I've been into, around like checking off the boxes and not doing this or having enough or 30 minutes of, 60 minutes of, like taking the all those parameters and stuff that I have to check before I can say that I'm enough. It's a haze to do that because I have 45 years of doing something else.
The check boxes before you can say you're enough. That's a lot to sit with. You want to hold there for a second. I agree, and the diet culture, food freedom is really good example of what comes to mind for me. We've been trying to figure out how to sustainably eat healthier. Right. So it's easy for a moment to be like, okay, this weekend we're going to Sprouts, getting all the groceries. We have all these, great recipes. We're going to spend 8 hours on Sunday cooking the meals. And then this week we had some like planned ahead meals. That's that's hard for me. And quite honestly, I don't want to do it. Like it's another thing to do in an already very busy life.
Right.
And when we did it that one good time, and then we haven't done it again since then. And then so we tried this meal prep service, and I said to myself when I ordered, I was like, you know what? We're gonna try this thing. It doesn't mean that we failed eating healthy. We haven't failed. We haven't figured out what works for us yet. And in my opinion, that is still progress because we're still trying to figure it out. We didn't give up and was like, oh well, then you know, let's just eat all the fast food, or let's just stick with what we know. Let's just stick with what works. Like, no, we're gonna figure this out. We're gonna if it takes us some time to do it, we'll take our time. If this service doesn't work for us, we don't like the way the food tastes, maybe we'll look into somebody that does it. You know what I mean? Like, the fact is that I didn't like assign any meaning to the fact that we did it the one time. I was just like, nope, we're going to figure this out. This is what I'm going to try. If this doesn't work, we'll try something else, because we are still moving towards our intention of, you know, healthy eating, healthy living in a way that is sustainable and not a haze and not judgmental and that feels energetically aligned with how we want to live.
Absolutely. And I think that for me that is a part of getting into navigating the haze, right? So I can say that I understand that this is the haze for me. Navigating the haze means that I'm not assigning value to myself based on whether or not this thing that we try is successful. It is about having enough gratitude to say, we're going to try this new thing that I think may work for how we're trying to live, much in the way we would try a new restaurant. Right. And either we try this new restaurant and we like it and we decide not to go back again, or we fall in love with it and we add it to our list of things that, we always try to find, like us a good Mexican spot, a good Italian spot, a good, all these
Caribbean, Asian.
So we got our stuff laid out, right? I feel like we ought to be able to find us a good list of healthy eating options that maybe we transition into and out of. To me, that is healthy balance. And there will be some things that we try that will work for a short period of time. In my mind, we're going to be kind of shocking our bodies a little bit and trying something so nothing gets too mundane. And that is the sustainability, like giving yourself permission to try new things and to not overindulge in any of it. And to not overindulge even in being, tied into a number on a scale or, a number on how much I exercise. Just, do I feel good? Do I feel good about the intention that we have to be better in all aspects of life? And that's how I'm choosing to navigate. Like, I believe that our higher power has given us everything that we need. And I'm grateful, rooting in gratitude, grateful that we have the resources to be able to try new things and give it a shot and see if it works.
Yeah. Another way to navigate is, and I'm just saying this a different way. Like, it's essentially means what you just said as well. You have to continuously make choices according to who you're trying to become. So I'm not going to make a choice based on who Shatay is today. I'm going to make a choice based on who future version of Shatay, what she would choose. So if I were already like eating fully the way I wanted to eat at the size I fully wanted to be, you know what I mean? Like, all the conditions were the way that I had dreamt them up. How would I be making choices? What would I choose? And that is how you get closer and closer to being that person.
Right.
You just choose, because our life is really just a sum total of all the choices we've made up until this point. So I am a little softer around the midsection because I chose my cookies and my breads for so long, or whatever the reason might be. Like, your body changes, hormones change, all that good stuff. But the point I'm trying to make is, my life is the way that it looks right now because of all the choices I've made up until now. And if I want my life to look differently, I've got to choose differently. And the way that you choose differently is you choose according to where you're going, not to where you are. That can be a haze and a way to navigate, because that's difficult when you got to step outside of your comfort zone. You got to, sometimes when you're making choices towards who you want to become, causes friction in your relationships around you. People are trying to understand, who is this new person? You change, you act different. Who are you? You think you better, right? That kind of stuff could happen. It could be a strain on your pocketbooks. Like, oh, it's going to cost a little bit more to I said pocketbook.
You said pocketbook. I'm sorry. They're 76 years old sometimes. Who says pocketbook?
Anyways, it costs more to eat healthier. Like all of those things, put your normal life out of whack. It's uncomfortable. How to, but that is really how you navigate through it. It's uncomfortable, and if you want to get to that place, then you gotta choose those things.
I guess for me, it has levels to me. And I'm not challenging what you said. I think I can recognize my stuck place in what you said. So the stuck place for me is when I try to make choices towards what I want my life to look like. Frequently, I invalidate like who I am right now, like knowing that I'm not enough. And you and I had this conversation the other day, right? When we were talking about thinking back to some years ago when we first started dating. And we were both a little bit thinner in the face and, all those types of things. And we both, even at that time, were just like, I want to lose weight. I want to, work out more. I want to do this. And we're looking at our pictures from then, now. I'm like, dang, I wish I was that size. I didn't know. And that's a part of like stopping myself and finding gratitude and enoughness even in that moment. Like, yes, I want to plan for how I want my life to be and how I want my body to look and all of those things down the road. But I don't want to negate feeling good about who I am right now. I don't always want to be looking at I'm not enough right now.
Yeah.
And so that's a stuck place for me that I'm still finding my way through. Because definitely ain't no expertise here.
Yeah.
I just know that the way that I look now, I'd have to tell myself, and I know I look damn good right now.
So I think to be choosing to make choices towards who you're becoming doesn't have to negate who you are now. Like, I love our life now. And I still, even in that gratitude and appreciation for where we are now, like we still evolve, right? We still become a higher version or a different version. It doesn't have to say higher put some meaning that this isn't, high enough, but it could just be different. We're all supposed to be growing. If you're not growing, you're dying. So I understand your point. I'm saying it doesn't have to be an indictment on this current version to be choosing to move forward, right? The illustration of a journey, right? We can really appreciate the scenery of where we are on our path right now. Like, oh, I love these trees and I love whatever is here. And then just to know that down the road on the journey, like, oh, I would love to, see the leaves there too, right? So it doesn't have to mean that this was bad in order to like choose.
Yeah, I agree. Just pointing out that I realize that frequently in my life, things have been like that part. It's been an indictment on who I am. And for some of us, for me, we have to move past that indictment part and navigate through that first to, know that, yes, I want to keep reaching for something, better. And also, I'm good right now.
And to get a little woo-woo on us, they say that like you have to vibrate at the level that you're trying to attract, right? So if we are constantly indicting where we are, not feeling good where we are, we're not going to ever really attract the hotter, sexier, slimmer versions of us because we're not even vibrating at that level. But as soon as we start to live in appreciation and like, oh, I think I'm hot and sexy and whatever now, and also make choices for that, then we will absolutely, attract. So we have to be in alignment energetically, I think, to also move. But, didn't mean to get all woo-woo like that. But
I hear you, Ms. Lauren Hill.
Any lessons you've learned on progress? Just keep going.
Challenges with that I'm still learning, and that I'm habitually a student of myself and of like the things that I learn. I think one of the greatest things that I share with my veteran that I do for myself is that at the end of the day, I try to reconcile the books.
Yeah,
like what did I put out? What did I take in? As far as everything is concerned, and what do I need to do in order to stay in business on tomorrow?
That's why I swipe right on you.
There it is.
Right there.
Yeah, you made a good decision way back then and still choosing good.
That's how you feel?
I do. But that's it. Like giving myself an opportunity to be able to reconcile the books at the end of the day and then make the appropriate adjustment for the next day to keep me in business.
I have a super random thought. I have thought over the past couple of days, like, man, if I have this amount of self-awareness and self-trust when I was younger, I don't know why I thought that. Like, gosh, I was really thinking about, I've come such a long way and like having learned about myself and learned how to show up in the world in a better way that like works better for me. And I was thinking like, gosh, why do we have to wait until we're like this age to learn it? I'm grateful that we're learning it all because I think some people go through life, flailing. But like, can you imagine having this much awareness and trust and whatever in your 20s? Like how life would have been?
But I think the thing that I appreciate about our generation the most is that we're coming out of some of those like things that had us bound.
Generational too.
Right. Generational kind of stuff and just some of those beliefs that did not serve like who we were to become.
Yeah.
But we're also like sharing information. So we see like the younger generations in their 20s who are like leaning more into like therapy and making choices that really serve them. And, we look at some of the stuff they do and be like, oh, they crazy as hell. But some of the stuff they do is like freedom, choices that we were too scared to make when we were younger because we thought we had to stay with jobs and we thought we were supposed to be there for forever.
We were taught that.
We were taught and we bought in.
Yeah.
And they have just broken those chains like much earlier. I think they are, trying to find their own balance and they'll have their own challenges. But I appreciate about them that I ain't gonna do that.
Break every chain. Loose association that just came up.
I'm glad you said it. It's been my whole episode talking about you. So what does this feel like? What's our music for the moment?
So it's so interesting that when we come up with an episode, songs almost immediately pop up into my spirit now. I don't know because we've gotten into the practice of it, but immediately when we were writing up the notes for this episode, keep on moving, Soul II Soul. Immediately, I was really thinking of the term "keep on keeping on." But there wasn't a song except for Escape, which I didn't feel like it was appropriate. Escape and MC Lyte didn't think it really captured the mood, the vibe of the conversation, but keep on moving. Soul II Soul would be for me. What's yours?
Mine is a little throwback. Erykah Badu, On and On. She says, peace and blessings manifest with every lesson learned. If your knowledge were your wealth, then it would be well earned. So basically, the world is going to keep on turning no matter what. And we get the opportunity to learn. And every lesson is something that we can use to be better. And it doesn't take like any particular juncture in time for me to have put the lessons that I've learned into practice as something that can teach me how to be better. So let's keep going.
Keep going. On and keep on moving. Don't stop now.
Chill.
Keep on moving. I love that. So you heard it from us. January 2023. You don't have to start over, y'all. Just keep doing you. One foot in front of the other. And speaking of keep on doing you, let's do it together. So if you are watching on YouTube, please like this video, subscribe to the channel. If you are joining from, oh my gosh, we're everywhere now, y'all. We're on Amazon, Apple, Google, Spotify, iHeart.
Shout out to my producer.
We're on all these platforms. So holler at us. And make sure that you give us a review and Like our episodes. If ever you want to reach out, you can always hit us up at thelovehaze@gmail.com. Let us know what you want to talk about. We'll unpack it on an episode for you. But at the end of the day, just join us. Like we'll walk together. Like we always say, life will always present us with the haze. It's gonna life. But we have everything that we need within us to navigate through it.
Amen. The most important thing is that you're not alone.
You're not.
Join us next time. We appreciate you joining us every time.
Every time.
And just know that we're going to take the journey together. We appreciate y'all. Peace.
Holla.